Hey everyone, All In Arrowhead here. Week 11 delivered a mix of statement wins, close calls, and surprising collapses that continue to shuffle the NFL standings and remind us just how unpredictable this league can be. The Rams narrowly edged the Seahawks in a tense clash, showing resilience in the red zone and capitalizing on critical turnovers, while the Bills dominated the Buccaneers in a high-scoring affair that highlighted Buffalo's precision passing and ability to strike quickly and consistently. The Steelers bounced back impressively against the Bengals, demonstrating both offensive efficiency and opportunistic defense, while the Packers eked out a hard-fought win over the Giants in a game that included late turnovers and clutch drives. The Panthers showed poise in overtime to take down Atlanta, while the Falcons' struggles with consistency and key injuries were on full display. Several underdogs reminded us that no lead is ever safe, emphasizing the importance of execution, situational awareness, and finishing drives in tight contests. My picks mostly held up, with a few surprises keeping the season unpredictable and exciting, but overall the outlook remains solid as we move deeper into the year and teams jockey for playoff positioning. With the Broncos, Chargers, Dolphins, and Commanders on bye this week, several squads have the opportunity to climb in the standings, make a statement, or seize momentum before the stretch run intensifies. Week 12 promises pivotal matchups, high-stakes competition, breakout performances, and key moments that could ultimately shape the playoff picture in meaningful ways. Let's get into the games! The Buffalo Bills head into this Week 12 showdown riding momentum from a 44-32 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 11, where Josh Allen was electric, throwing 3 touchdown passes and rushing for 3 more, totaling 6 touchdowns on the day, including a decisive 9-yard touchdown that sealed the game in the fourth quarter. The Bills piled up 414 total yards while forcing a late strip sack fumble by Daquan Jones that snuffed out Tampa's comeback attempt. Buffalo's offensive front allowed 0 sacks on the day. However, the run defense surrendered over 200 rushing yards, suggesting there are still areas to tighten up. Meanwhile, the Houston Texans enter this matchup after a gritty 16-13 victory over the Tennessee Titans in Week 11, boosted by Davis Mills completing 26 of 41 passes for 274 yards and a touchdown, and kicker Matthew Wright drilling a 35-yard game winner as time expired. Houston's defense held strong, with the Titans' final drive stalling short and big third-down saves offering clear evidence of poise under pressure. However, the Texans' offense managed just 1 touchdown and continues to lean heavily on field goal drives, and their run game remains underwhelming. In this cross-conference matchup, Buffalo's explosive playmaking gives them the upper hand, but Houston's defensive resilience makes them dangerous if the Bills let up. I'm picking the Bills to win and move to 8-3, while the Texans drop to 5-6. The Colts enter Week 12 well-rested after their bye, following an incredible 31-25 overtime win against the Falcons in Berlin, highlighted by Jonathan Taylor's dominant performance with 244 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, including a crucial 8-yard score in OT that capped off a comeback fueled by Michael Badgley's 44-yard game-tying field goal as time expired in regulation. Perfect. Daniel Jones added 255 passing yards, but he threw an interception and faced pressure throughout the game, while the offensive line gradually opened holes late, allowing Taylor to break off an 83-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. Despite the win, Indianapolis still showed some vulnerability in pass protection and third down conversions. The Chiefs, on the other hand, are coming off a frustrating 22-19 loss to the Broncos, a game in which Patrick Mahomes faced relentless pressure, and the offense struggled to convert red zone opportunities into touchdowns, settling for field goals instead. Kansas City's defense held strong at times, but allowed critical chunk plays late in the game, including a late 3rd and 15 on the final drive that swung momentum in Denver's favor. The team showed that sustaining drives against a tough opponent like the Broncos remains a challenge. This Week 12 matchup in Kansas City will test the Colts' ability to impose their ground game on a veteran Chiefs defense, while forcing Mahomes and the offense into mistakes. With Mahomes finding his rhythm and the Chiefs' offense capable of explosive plays, I'm picking Kansas City to pull out a win, improving to 6-5, while the Colts fall to 8-3. The Seahawks move into Week 12 after a frustrating 21-19 loss to the Rams, a game that showcased how dynamic yet volatile their offense can be. Sam Darnold threw for 279 yards and consistently pushed the ball downfield, but his 4 interceptions, including one in the red zone and another on a deep shot early in the fourth quarter, derailed multiple promising drives and kept Seattle from ever fully taking control. Kenneth Walker continued to be the most reliable piece of the offense, finishing with 67 rushing yards on 16 carries, while also adding 44 receiving yards and a touchdown on a screen pass that jump-started their second-half push. The Seahawks defense held Los Angeles to long field goal attempts for most of the afternoon. Jason Myers kept Seattle alive with 4 made field goals, but the game ultimately came down to his 61-yard attempt in the final seconds, which had the distance but sailed just wide. Meanwhile, the Titans come in after a narrow 16-13 defeat to the Texans, where Cam Ward completed 24 of 37 passes for 194 yards and a touchdown, and played his best football during a 95-yard fourth-quarter drive that tied the game late. Tennessee's defense held Houston out of the end zone for stretches, but their offense continued to lack explosive plays, settling for underneath routes and short gains that made sustaining drives difficult. With Seattle showing they can move the ball but needing cleaner execution, and Tennessee still searching for rhythm and identity on both sides of the ball, this matchup leans toward the more complete team. I'm picking Seattle to improve to 8-3, while Tennessee falls to 1-10. The Vikings are coming off a narrow 19-17 loss to the Bears, where offensive inconsistencies once again resurfaced, and the defense struggled to close out late drives despite some flashes of individual play. Quarterback J.J. McCarthy finished with a decent stat line, completing 16 of 32 passes for 150 yards and a touchdown, and Justin Jefferson led the way with 5 catches for 61 yards, but the defense gave up a game-winning field goal late. The Packers, meanwhile, enter this Week 12 matchup looking to build on a gritty 27-20 win over the Giants, a game in which quarterback Jordan Love returned from a shoulder tweak to deliver the go-ahead 17-yard touchdown to Christian Watson with just over 4 minutes remaining, and linebacker Rashawn Gary sealed the victory with the fumble recovery with only 10 seconds left. Green Bay's offense leaned heavily on its short passing game and ground presence to methodically move downfield. Josh Jacobs only carried the ball 7 times for 40 yards before exiting the game with a knee injury, while Love finished with 174 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the defense held the Giants to 336 total yards, showing bounce after a 2-game skid. In this NFC North pivot, the Packers' ability to win close games and capitalize in the red zone gives them a slight edge, though Minnesota's dynamic playmakers in the receiving game keep the Vikings dangerous. I'm picking the Packers to take this one and move to 7-3-1, while the Vikings fall to 4-7. The Jets come into Week 12 struggling after a 27-14 loss to the Patriots in Week 11, where Justin Fields completed 15 of 26 passes for 116 yards and added both a passing and a rushing touchdown, but the offense struggled to sustain momentum throughout the game. Breece Hall ran 14 times for just 58 yards, and the passing game lacked explosiveness with too many short completions and stalled drives, while the defense allowed New England to convert key third downs and control the tempo, exposing weaknesses in coverage and tackling. Turnovers and missed opportunities on special teams also contributed to the deficit, and the Jets will need a more disciplined, consistent approach in all 3 phases to compete against a team of Baltimore's caliber. Meanwhile, the Ravens enter this matchup with confidence after a 23-16 win against the Browns, with Derrick Henry powering through tough runs, finishing with 103 yards and a touchdown, and the defense making timely plays to limit Cleveland's scoring chances. Baltimore executed efficiently in the red zone and maintained control on critical drives, showing the balance that has defined their season, with Lamar Jackson orchestrating key third down conversions and keeping the offense on schedule. In Week 12, the Jets will need to improve offensive line protection, sustain drives, and create more turnovers to challenge the Ravens, who can rely on their physical running game and opportunistic defense to control the flow and tempo. I'm picking Baltimore to win and improve to 6-5, while the Jets fall to 2-9 and clinch a losing season. The Giants enter Week 12 after a 27-20 loss to the Packers in Week 11, a game where New York showed stretches of competitiveness but once again failed to deliver in the critical moments. Jameis Winston was steady enough to keep the offense moving, throwing for 201 yards and an interception, and Devin Singletary provided much-needed balance with 2 rushing touchdowns, highlighted by a fourth-quarter 85-yard scoring drive that briefly put the Giants ahead. But the issues that have defined their season resurfaced late. The defense surrendered a decisive touchdown drive to Jordan Love and Christian Watson, earlier red zone opportunities slipped away, and several long possessions fizzled without points. Detroit, meanwhile, comes off a frustrating 16-9 loss to the Eagles in Week 11, a game defined by missed opportunities on offense. Jared Goff never found consistent rhythm under pressure, throwing for 255 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And the Lions' ground game stalled with Jahmyr Gibbs, who carried the ball 12 times for 39 yards, and drives that normally produce touchdowns instead turned into field goals. The defense kept them within striking distance throughout the night, but lacked a breakthrough moment that could shift momentum. Even with that setback, Detroit remains in strong position entering Week 12, while the Giants continue searching for a game where their execution holds up for all 4 quarters. This matchup favors the Lions' ability to rebound, and I'm picking Detroit to move to 7-4, while New York falls to 2-10 and will essentially be one of the first teams eliminated from playoff contention. The Pittsburgh Steelers roll into Week 12 with confidence after a commanding 34-12 win over the Cincinnati Bengals, a game defined by defensive domination and game-changing momentum swings. Pittsburgh completely smothered Cincinnati's offense, generating steady backfield pressure, forcing multiple 3-and-outs, and holding the Bengals under 300 total yards. A crucial sequence late in the second quarter saw the Steelers block a Bengals field goal attempt, flipping field position before Kyle Duggar delivered the play of the day with a 73-yard pick six that blew the game open in the third. Offensively, Aaron Rodgers threw for 116 yards and a touchdown before leaving early with a hand injury. But Mason Rudolph stepped in and steadied the unit, directing 2 efficient scoring drives behind strong protection and a balanced run game. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears enter off a dramatic 19-17 win over the Minnesota Vikings, thanks to Cairo Santos drilling a 48-yard game-winning field goal set up by Devin Duvernay's electric 56-yard kickoff return. Chicago's defense held firm in high-leverage moments, producing key stops and a red zone takeaway that kept the Vikings from taking control late. With Pittsburgh's defense peaking and the offense showing resilience despite injuries, and Chicago leaning on timely special teams sparks and situational defense, this matchup shapes up as a physical, tightly contested battle. I'm taking the Steelers to ride their defensive edge and overall consistency and move to 7-4, while the Bears slip to 7-4. The Patriots enter Week 12 at 9-2 after a steady 27-14 victory over the Jets on Thursday night, a performance defined by clean execution and timely plays on both sides of the ball. TreVeyon Henderson continued to be the focal point of the offense with 3 touchdowns and 62 rugged rushing yards, giving New England balance early and finishing drives when it mattered. Drake May delivered one of his sharpest outings of the season, completing 25 of 34 passes for 281 yards and a touchdown with no giveaways, consistently moving the chains by connecting with Stephon Diggs, who posted 9 catches for 105 yards and won nearly every one-on-one matchup thrown his way. New England's defense also stepped up, holding Justin Fields to 116 passing yards, limiting explosive plays, and turning a botched snap into a momentum-shifting short field that helped stretch the lead in the second half. On the other side, the Bengals fell to 3-7 after a 34-12 loss to the Steelers, where Joe Flacco threw for 199 yards and a touchdown, but also a costly pick that was taken 73 yards the other way, stalling Cincinnati's comeback hopes. Chase Brown ran with urgency, posting 99 yards on 18 carries, yet the Bengals couldn't string together sustained drives or finish red zone trips, and their defense wore down as Pittsburgh pieced together long, clock-draining possessions. With New England playing disciplined, efficient football, and Cincinnati still struggling to execute in key moments, I'm taking the Patriots to control this matchup and improve to 10-2, while the Bengals drop to 3-8. Browns head into this matchup after a 23-16 loss to the Ravens in Week 11, a game where their defense delivered one of its grittiest performances of the season, but the offense simply could not match it, especially once Dylan Gabriel left early with a head injury that forced rookie Shedeur Sanders into extended action. Sanders completed just 4 of 16 passes for 68 yards, with an interception and a late fumble that stalled Cleveland's best chance at a comeback. The run game never gained traction behind an offensive line that repeatedly lost at the point of attack. Even so, the Browns stayed competitive deep into the fourth quarter, thanks to Myles Garrett wrecking the game with 4 sacks and multiple pressures that helped keep Baltimore off balance. But the defining moment came when the Ravens broke a 16-16 tie with a perfectly executed fake tush-push, as Mark Andrews lined up behind the center, sold the traditional shove play, then bounced outside untouched for a back-breaking 35-yard touchdown that completely fooled the Cleveland defense. On the other side, the Raiders enter at 2-8 after a 33-16 loss to the Cowboys in which Dak Prescott threw 4 touchdowns. Las Vegas failed to generate any rhythm on the ground or through the air, and the defense surrendered explosive plays all night while producing almost no resistance or turnovers. Both teams are searching for something to spark a late-season turnaround, but with Cleveland's defense still showing an ability to keep games close, while Las Vegas continues to unravel in all phases, I'm taking the Browns to move to 3-8, while the Raiders fall to 2-9. The Jaguars enter Week 12 coming off a dominant 35-6 victory against the Chargers, a game where Trevor Lawrence efficiently led Jacksonville's offense, connecting on key passes, including a 1-yard touchdown to Tim Patrick. Travis Etienne powered the ground game with 2 scores, and rookie Bashal Tutin added another touchdown, helping the Jaguars control nearly 38 minutes of possession and keep LA's offense off the field. Jacksonville's defense was equally formidable, limiting Justin Herbert to just 81 passing yards on 10 of 18 attempts, forcing an interception, and consistently shutting down the Chargers' running game, allowing the team to build and maintain a commanding lead throughout. The Cardinals, meanwhile, return home trying to regroup after a 41-22 loss to San Francisco, in which Jacoby Brissett threw for an eye-popping 452 yards on an NFL record 47 completions, but also committed 3 turnovers, including 2 interceptions that killed scoring opportunities. Arizona's defense had no answers for Brock Purdy's 200 yards and 3 passing touchdowns, or Christian McCaffrey's 3-touchdown performance that kept the 49ers in control from start to finish. The contrast between Jacksonville's efficiency and balance versus Arizona's volume but mistake-heavy attack is hard to ignore, and unless the Cardinals find a way to tighten coverage and avoid the costly turnovers that have repeatedly buried them, they'll have trouble matching the rhythm the Jaguars showed last week. I'm taking Jacksonville to improve to 7-4, while Arizona drops to 3-8. The Eagles come into Week 12 riding momentum after a gritty 16-9 win over the Lions in Week 11, a matchup where their defense made every big play count. Philadelphia limited Detroit to just 317 total yards, forced the Lions to go 0 for 5 on 4th down, and shut them out in the red zone, while Jalen Hurts added 31 rushing yards and punched in a 1-yard touchdown just before halftime to give the Eagles their edge. Kicker Jake Elliott was rock solid, drilling 3 field goals, including a long 49-yarder, to pad the lead and maintain control down the stretch. Meanwhile, the Cowboys rebounded in convincing fashion on Monday night, beating the Raiders 33-16 behind Dak Prescott's most efficient passing performance of the season, as he completed 25 of 33 passes for 268 yards and 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers. George Pickens stole the show with a 144-yard game and a 37-yard score, while Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, and even Ryan Flournoy found the end zone, showing just how versatile Dallas's receiving corps can be. On defense, Dallas made their presence felt, forcing multiple turnovers and even recording a safety late in the fourth quarter to seal the game. This matchup feels like a real measuring stick. Do Philly's defense and situational offense continue to impose their will, or can Dallas's explosive passing attack make enough big plays to overpower them? I'm leaning toward the Eagles to hold on and improve to 9-2,
Safety,
while the Cowboys drop to 4-6-1. The Falcons enter Week 12 after a 30-27 overtime loss to the Panthers in Week 11, a game highlighted by Bijan Robinson's 104 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, and Drake London's 119 receiving yards, but marred by quarterback Michael Penix Jr. leaving with a knee injury, and the defense giving up 448 passing yards, including a 12-yard touchdown that sent the game into overtime. Atlanta's offensive line struggled to protect the quarterback for long drives, and the Falcons will need more consistent execution in both the run and pass game if they hope to climb back toward respectability. The Saints, meanwhile, come off their bye following a 17-7 win over the Panthers in Week 10, where rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck delivered one of his cleanest outings by completing 19 of 27 passes for 282 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 62-yard bomb to Chris Olave and a 30-yard strike to Jawan Johnson that helped New Orleans control momentum despite limited rushing output. Their defense stepped up as well, holding Carolina to one first-half touchdown, forcing an interception, and keeping the Panthers from generating any rhythm in the passing game, while also tightening up in the red zone. Both teams are trying to stabilize after inconsistent stretches, but with Atlanta's offense showing more diversity and playmaking upside, and the Saints still struggling with sustained drives on both sides of the ball, I'm picking the Falcons to win this matchup and move to 4-7, while New Orleans drops to 2-9 and clinches a second consecutive losing season. The Buccaneers enter Week 12 following a 44-32 shootout loss to the Bills in Week 11, a game where quarterback Baker Mayfield passed for 173 yards and a touchdown, while running back Sean Tucker rushed for 106 yards, recorded 2 rushing touchdowns, and hauled in another score through the air. Yet Tampa Bay surrendered 9 lead changes and allowed quarterback Josh Allen to account for 6 total touchdowns, 3 passing, 3 rushing, as he passed for 317 yards. Tampa's offense showed life, but their defense faltered repeatedly, especially late in the fourth quarter when Allen engineered long drives to pull away. Meanwhile, the Rams come in after a tense 21-19 win over the Seahawks, a contest defined by 4 interceptions of Seattle quarterback Sam Darnold, 2 by Cam Kinchens, 1 by Kobe Durant, and 1 by Darius Williams. Running back Kyron Williams finished with 91 yards on 12 carries and a touchdown, and wide receiver Devontae Adams and tight end Colby Parkinson contributed 2 receiving scores. Los Angeles leaned on opportunistic defense and timely offense to preserve the victory, though they weren't dominant and needed the final kick to seal it. This Week 12 matchup pits Tampa's high-octane offense against a Rams squad built around defensive disruption and a controlled ground attack. For the Buccaneers to turn the tide, they'll need to shore up coverage and finish stronger on defense, while the Rams must find more offensive consistency to complement their defensive standards. I'm picking Los Angeles to continue their push for the division and edge past Tampa Bay, with the Rams improving to 9-2 and the Buccaneers dropping to 6-5. Carolina heads into Week 12 after a dramatic 30-27 overtime win against the Falcons, a performance highlighted by Bryce Young's 448 passing yards and 3 touchdowns on 31 completions, as he repeatedly tested Atlanta's secondary and delivered in high-pressure moments. Tetairoa McMillan continued his emergence with 130 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, giving the Panthers a reliable big play option, while Rico Dowdle added 45 rushing yards to keep the offense balanced and manageable. Defensively, Carolina bent several times but came up with the critical stop that allowed Ryan Fitzgerald's game-winning field goal in overtime, showing resilience despite giving up big chunks of yardage. On the other side, San Francisco comes off a dominant 41-22 win over the Cardinals, with Brock Purdy throwing for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, Christian McCaffrey rushing for 81 yards and combining for 3 total touchdowns, and George Kittle consistently stretching Arizona's coverage and keeping the defense off balance. The 49ers forced Arizona into a pass-heavy game plan, capitalizing on 17 penalties and limiting Jacoby Brissett's effectiveness despite his 452 passing yards and NFL record 47 completions. With San Francisco executing a more complete and balanced game plan and Carolina continuing to search for weekly consistency, the 49ers appear more poised in this matchup, and I'm taking them to move to 8-4, while the Panthers drop to 6-6.